Hello and welcome to an Army showcase and mini review video, or, if you like, ASMR. In this video, we'll be taking a look at one of your armies, so I invite you now to open Infinity Army, pick a list for us to discuss, and when you're ready, we'll begin. Let's start by thinking about your faction choice and why you chose the faction that you did. In Infinity, factions have distinct strengths, weaknesses, and limitations, and each is, in a sense, an expression of the player that chooses it. I can see that you've put a great deal of thought into your faction choice for this army, thinking about what it is you want the list to accomplish, what your faction enables you to do, and the general character of the army that results. Your faction choice lays the groundwork for everything that follows, and it's a good faction that you've chosen. Next, let's consider how you've arranged your combat groups. It's important here that we cover the functionality of each group. In a list, each group needs to have enough orders to fulfill the tasks you set to it, and your army needs groups that can be set a wide array of tasks. There are many options that we have here. Small, secondary groups that we might set only limited tasks to. Perhaps this is where irregular troopers go. Disposable ARO pieces, or models that are self-sufficient and need few orders to function. We might have a large primary combat group with many orders and multiple options for powerful active elements to serve as an outlet for those orders. In some cases, we may even be fortunate enough to be playing an army that can run two fully functional or mostly functional combat groups with a sure feed of orders, relying on skills like tactical awareness and NCO to make sure that both combat groups can be set a wide array of tasks, and we can expect each of them to accomplish those tasks we set to these groups. Your combat groups in this list are well thought out, and every model and every fire team has the orders to accomplish the goals we might expect to set on them. From here, let's consider your use of fire teams. Not every list needs fire teams, as you know, but they're valuable tools that offer utility and force multiplication to any list that includes them. Fire teams might range from utility duos, two troopers, mutually supportive, escorting one another around the battlefield and covering one another's weaknesses, or assault teams of 2 to 4 troops that might be expected to move forward and bear a greater burden of the mission and the fighting that's required. Or perhaps even a defensive or centerpiece fire team, a fire team core consisting of up to 5 troopers. Difficult at that size to maneuver, but reasonably expected to bear a significant burden, in particular, of the defensive firepower roles that your list might require. Let's appreciate here how well you've made use of the fire team options that your chosen faction presents, making effective use of both the available fire teams, the troopers that comprise them, and your limited trooper slots overall, carefully balancing opportunities for mutual support and the need for independent elements, mobility and maneuver, to meet whatever demands the battlefield and scenario might place upon you. And specialists, of course, are a tool we will often need to meet the demands, especially that the scenario places upon us. Let's think about your use of specialists in this list. Do you have enough to do the mission? Can you move them up the field onto the table to get wherever they might need to go? And are you keeping the opportunity cost of those specialists low? Perhaps by combining specialist profiles with other valuable elements, or incorporating specialists into your fire teams to provide them with both support in a combat sense and the order efficiency that fire team maneuver offers, allowing us to move specialists forward while the fire team accomplishes other goals. And I do like what you've done with your specialists in this list. Importantly, I feel you haven't taken too many. The list shows confidence in its ability to engage with the requirements of the scenario without sacrificing any of the other critical needs we might place inside a list. Defense, gunfighting, and other tools are all still enabled despite having enough specialists to accomplish the demands of the mission. Well done. And so let's consider some of those other requirements a list might be expected to bear. Starting with defense, ARO potential, the ability to frustrate your opponent's objectives, and importantly, frustrate their offensives against your own forces. In N5, defense is perhaps more important than ever to a list. Defending against rapid offensive units, movements that can move quickly, with the durability to both create and exploit a breach in your lines, which are supported by enemy rampart sweeping firepower, is a capability that every list needs to consider and have a mix of tools to confront. Fast, aggressive, multi-wound offensive pieces are more common than ever before, particularly with the addition of flyers to the game, but even older and existing models within this category, elements like Sujan or Dog Warriors, must be accounted for when considering how we might defend. A mix of hard and soft ARO pieces, reactive gunfighting, hacking, camouflage and other obfuscation, and even ambush elements are all important parts of our defensive mix in Infinity. Managing this defensive mix is made more challenging by the fact that not every faction has access to all of the same tools. A faction may have powerful, hard AROs, strong defensive gunfighters, but limited access to ambush or hacking tools. A faction may have outstanding, soft ARO pieces, jammers, hacking, and info war, but be limited in their ability to present particularly multispectral visor defensive troops that might slow or pin back enemy models making use of smoke to advance. In all cases, managing the defensive mix in our army to ensure we are able to play the game no matter what offensives our opponents might launch at us is critical. And in your list, the defenses are well thought out and, critically, show an understanding of the threats you're likely to face. No defensive tool is wasted, and in all cases, the defensive elements have a clear part to play in responding to the dominant threats in your local community. Well done, and a good read. Now, of course, we can't talk about defense without also thinking about how our list proceeds offensively up the table. Not every list in Infinity needs strong, powerful gunfighting pieces, but every list needs to be able to accomplish its objectives and advance up the field. And, having advanced, capitalize on our own position, enemy vulnerabilities, and generally set the conditions that will enable us to win the game. Depending on our faction, that could mean a variety of things: powerful rampart sweeping firepower, a heavy and mobile tactical armored gear, linked firepower or elite individual pieces, supported by tools like visibility control and camouflage to enable our advance. The order system always makes any Infinity game a game of maneuver. Maneuver enabled by firepower and other tools, and your list, we can see, is well positioned to both make and take advantage of openings, eroding the enemy forces and accomplishing the objectives of the scenario wheresoever you may need to do so across the table. And so now, let's conclude this army showcase and mini review with a conclusion about your list that we've been discussing here today. We've talked about your faction choice and how it's both a self-expression and a careful decision to make sure you have the tools you need to play Infinity. We've talked about your combat groups and about how they're carefully structured and appropriately resourced to meet any of the demands that you might place upon them during a game. We've discussed your fire teams, configured to attack, defend, and enable troops to mutually support one another as they move about the battlefield. We've considered your use of specialists, assessed whether you have enough to accomplish the mission, and whether the specialists you have taken are efficient, effective, and capable of maneuvering to meet the requirements of the mission. And finally, we've thought about the offensive and defensive tools available to your list, considered whether your list is capable of advance, maneuver, suppression and destruction of enemy positions, and, in turn, whether your list is capable of defending against an enemy with those self-same tools. And overall, I'm very happy to say that your list meets the demands of a game of Infinity. It's carefully thought out, well configured, and above all and most importantly, looks fun to play. It is a good list. And I hope you've enjoyed our discussion and appraisal of the list you've chosen for this video. I wish you the best of luck in all of your games with this list. And for now, and with that,